That's what I'm talking about. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, both Speculate listeners and Arvanauts, members of my channel. It's good to see everyone here on a Sunday evening. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome to a special mini campaign, a joint Speculate and channel event of Blades in the Dark with Brandon O'Brien as GM, and starring many of your either favorite or soon-to-be favorite authors, speculative fiction authors, who are going to be part of his intrepid crew, including my co-host and good friend Mike Underwood, who I will introduce in just a moment. But before I do that, I do want to remind everybody about a couple of things here. First of all, this is a joint Speculate event, so in addition to the normal channel stuff, which is basically supporting what we do here by following the channel, checking out the YouTube channel with !ArvTube, the Twitter with !ArvTweets, the Discord with !ArvCord, and you can find all of that on arvanelleron.com. Financially, you got !Arvtreon, !Arvshop for merchandise stuff, and the sub button, that's subscription button right above the video window, along with various publishing stuff that I've talked about before. But beyond the channel stuff, I do want to sort of highlight SpeculateSF.com, which is the home for the long-running podcast, which is now an actual play podcast, which I host with Mike Underwood. And in addition to that, we've also got our Patreon, patreon.com/SpeculateSF, which you can also get to if you want to hear more cool stuff that's going to be related to this. In addition to the audio, which is being made from this live video performance, we will hopefully have a special thing that is just for Patreon listeners, probably people talking a little bit about the experience of playing Blades in the Dark. So that's the way that we're going to be doing this. So I'm very excited to host this. This is kind of a cool, we've done a joint event before, I think one or two of them in the past, but this is a little mini campaign and I'm pretty excited for that. I'm also really excited about the overlay that was put together by the amazing Shadowed Mage. So I just want to say that up front because, man, he did a great job and it's awesome and all that. So I am now going to unmute myself so that the folks know that we're ready to go. I think I may have accidentally interrupted Mike when I did that, and I'll apologize to him profusely. I will then unmute them, and then I'm going to swing right over to dun 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 dun. That is what I'm talking about. That is an overlay and a half. I'm super excited about that overlay, and I'm even more excited about this amazing crew. Thank you for the resub. Good grief, I can't even get started. Thanks, Brahms. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the resub. Thank you very much, and welcome everybody. You can see this intrepid crew is ready to go. So I'm going to hand it over to my co-host and partner in literally crime this evening anyway, Mike Underwood, also known as Turbo Tango in Twitch life. And Mike, I'm going to give you a chance to introduce Brandon and the rest of the party. And yeah, good luck, everyone. I'm excited to see if you could have heard what they were talking about in the green room about what their characters are interested in. Oh man, it's going to be good stuff. So I'm going to shut up, and Mike, floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. So today I'm very excited because we at Speculate, Greg and I, are honored to be able to present a new actual play series of Blades in the Dark. But instead of Greg or me running the game, we have brought in a fabulous guest GM who listeners on Speculate may already recall from the last time we played Blades. So I'm going to toss it over to our guest GM, Brandon O'Brien.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I remember before everything happened outside, having suggested that it would be really cool to get an opportunity to play Blades in the Dark with you all again. It's a really wonderful system. I really dig it a lot. I really enjoyed playing with Mike and Greg before on a previous series of episodes of Speculate, and I just really wanted to try my hand at actually GMing it this time and doing something particularly interesting. So before we get into those details, I would like to ask all of my friends here to introduce themselves, starting with Mike, who has the least introduction to provide, obviously.
Do you want us to intro anything about our characters?
Not yet. We'll get into that in a bit.
Cool. So I'm Mike Underwood. I'm one of the co-hosts on Speculate. I also am a guest co-host on the Skiffy and Fanty show now and then. And I have a found family space opera adventure novel called Annihilation Aria coming July 21st. So it's close enough that now I'm starting to aggressively plug, and that's me.
And we'll follow with Jeoi.
Hello, my name is Jeoi Gawain, pronouns they, them, and I was very kindly invited to join this particular crew, and I'm excited to see what goes on. And that's me. I'm not that interesting.
That's not true, but I'll allow it, I guess. And next, Iori.
Hi, I'm Iori Kusano. I am Brandon's co-host on the Righteous Kicks podcast, to my knowledge, the only English language Kamen Rider podcast, hosted by the Skiffy and Fanty Show, Clarion West 2017, Fiction in Apex, Nonfic, and reviews in Uncanny and Strange Horizons. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to have you introduce yourselves to all of these wonderful people. And lastly, Valerie.
Oh, I am Valerie Valdes. I'm the author of Chilling Effect, a space opera, riffs on video games, pop culture, lots of fun stuff. And the sequel, Prime Deceptions, comes out in September, so you can check that stuff out. And I'm happy to be here. And I have cats, so they're going to walk in front of the camera. Sorry.
Yes, cats are good. I've specified privately to everyone that we are under no obligation to look fancy or to try to hide the fact that we are surrounded by kittens, so long as the game gets to continue being played. So with that, I would like to get into the meat of what of our Blades in the Dark game, which I have very lazily mostly given a title, the title of which totally escapes me now. Right, it is The Case of the Cindered Seal. Because I'm really interested in trying to do a mystery thing with Blades in the Dark, because I think it works very well with the very native mechanics of the game, and I think that giving everybody an opportunity to do detective things with not so very detective-esque tools will actually be kind of fun and silly, but also very interesting. So I'm going to ask now for everyone to introduce their characters in the same order, as much or as little as you feel like sharing at this moment, starting with Mike.
All right. So I am playing Ring Dalmore, who is the Spider playbook. The Spider is a devious mastermind. Ring's pronouns are they, them. Their look is wiry, tall boots, skirt and blouse, and a hooded coat. They are a Army veteran. They were a sergeant in the Unity War, which ended just a few years ago. They're born and raised in Akaros and kind of grew up on the streets around the dock, and kind of was the extra parent for their very large family of 7 children, and has basically been in the keeping the people that you care about alive business their whole life, which they tried to do in the war and frequently failed because the war was terrible. So now they're back and working at the docks again. And that is Ring.
Jeoi, you can follow with your character.
Okay, so I'll be playing a hull called Crossroads, pronouns it, its, and as far as it knows, it, when alive, was Taikarosi and tended to the Death Seeker crows sort of as a bird warden sort of figure. They died, but do not know how they died, and then were brought back by someone who claims to have been their friend, but do not remember this person, and this person is now dead. So they are currently pretending to be a still living human taking care of these birds. And their look is basically like a formal plague doctor. They have the bird face, smoked glass, leather, and metal, and by and large manage to pass as a human this way.
Okay. Iori, please introduce your character.
My character is Ash, the Lurk. Ashlyn Pharos has definitely always lived in Duskwall. Ash is Severosi. She works in the antiquities trade.
Okay. And Valerie, what about your character?
All right, I'm playing Carissa Skelcallan, alias Skelly. She is also from Ekaros. She's going to be the Hound, a deadly sharpshooter and tracker. She was born and raised on the streets, much like everyone else, works as a bounty hunter, was an orphan, so came up through the orphanage and was trained once her proclivities became apparent.
Okay. So there are some particularly interesting kinds of narrative information that I wanted to get on stream because I thought it would be cool to have everybody have that discussion very briefly and try to figure out where they stand on these questions. And the first question is, what are your characters' political and religious stances in the world that they live in, including, and this is very important, what is your character's stance on cults?
Kind of depends whose cult, doesn't it?
I mean, so in the world of Blades in the Dark, there are a series of forgotten gods. Mostly forgotten because it is technically considered very, very illegal to continue worshipping them. And many of them have literally fallen out of cultural consciousness as a result. But there are still small communities of cults that still worship those gods in very often troubling ways. So if it's a matter of never having encountered one before or having a mostly negative or even mostly positive relationship with a cultist in your area, I would be interested in hearing what your character might have to say about that, but also how you feel about the general politics and your own general religious demeanor in this space.
Well, for my character, it's super dead. So have fun, living people. Do your thing.
That works.
I'll jump in. Then I think I would say that my character views them with suspicion and some scorn. Probably coming up on the streets from the orphanage, she would have been warned away from them as a general rule. That's sort of a dark path for most people, and so she would be skeptical at best and outright hostile at worst, I would say.
Ash is not super concerned by the less sacrificey versions of cults because she feels that there is a tendency within Duskwall to dismiss a lot of the ethnic religions as cults. So basically she figures if you keep it behind closed doors and you're not murdering anyone in the process, it's none of her business.
A generally good stance to take. Mike?
Ring kind of got caught up in politics because they were pulled into the Unity War, but over the 10 or so years that they served, became incredibly disillusioned with like the whole thing because it became a meat grinder, and so any kind of patriotism that they had was fairly well ground out of them, and they've come to the point where their loyalties and their level of interest is really at the people and community level, and that like political forces are things that are inflicted on the people that they care about more than something that they feel that they engage with directly. And I think maybe they have a somewhat positive relationship with some kind of like river or like water fertility cult coming up around the docks, and Duskwall being a kind of a port city. So just in terms of contrast, I think maybe they have a positive relationship with one specific cult. Maybe they don't necessarily engage with it, but maybe people in their life engage with it, and they have a positive relationship with those people, and then we can build on that.
Okay. I actually like all of these answers a lot. They're giving me a lot of very interesting ideas.
Uh-oh.
Whenever a GM says interesting,
Yeah,
that tends
run.
to. Um, so the second question, obviously, I wanted this to happen on stream because often in a lot of games of this nature, this is information that is like typically glossed over, but the campaign that we're about to play is not a very you arrive at an inn kind of campaign. So I would like to ask how you believe your character would know another character who is present. That relationship can be friendly or adversarial. It can be a direct relationship that you have with each other, or an indirect relationship that you have through someone else. And that relationship with that NPC can also be friendly or adversarial as well.
So, as an antiquities trader, I think I sold one of you a haunted doll. Which one of you was it?
Is it a bird doll?
Yeah, I think it might have been. Big beady eyes. Really
Okay.
big, uncomfortably beady eyes.
Okay, then you sold me the bird doll. And then I died. But I still have
Sorry about that.
it. I don't
Was
know
it the doll's
that.
fault?
I don't know. I don't know how I died, so. But we'll say I now have a haunted doll, question mark.
So
Okay.
did anybody fight with Ring in the war, or maybe is related to somebody that was in Ring's unit?
I might have known someone who came out of the orphanage and ended up in your unit. Or if anything, I potentially would have crossed paths with you on the docks at some point, just as I was out and about doing what I'm told.
Yeah. Do you have a preference of which way that would go?
Whatever works for you. I'm good with whatever.
Because if it's somebody who is important to your character and they die during the war, then Ring would be following up, would have tried to find you and be doing right by you among the people that they're kind of trying to do right by, having like kind of screwed up in the war.
That works for me, unless someone else wants to take that one.
So I want to ask a follow-up question, in fact, about that. So both Ring and Skelly are Akarosi. What is it possible that you actually have like conflicting ideologies about the war and its aftermath as a result of your different relationships to this person?
I feel like we might actually be aligned, because I would be very angry about their death, I think, and probably so would they.
And do you have an idea for a name for this kind of orphanage friend?
It can be. Let me grab some names out of the player's kit real quick. How about... let's go with, how about Hicks? Hix.
And what were Hicks's pronouns?
Let's go.
I lost the audio on that from you, Valerie, at the very end. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I said he, him should be fine on that one, I think.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay.
So yeah, I think maybe Hicks was in my unit at some point and passed away, and that works for me. If you want to add anything, Valerie, please let me know.
Okay, that works. Is it? I'm kind of curious whether Ash possibly knows either Skelly or Ring, at least in passing.
It's possible they've been through the shop.
So you have like a dedicated location. You don't just meet people at their homes and fence the objects there.
Well, some of it's furniture. You really want a place to put that. Can you imagine how conspicuous it is just lugging an end table into an alley?
It's a collapsible one. It's the new.
I mean, is it really still conspicuous if it was stolen? Like, you had to lug it around at some point. Just pointing out.
They're not all stolen. Some of them are just dubiously antique.
Right. So could Ring have come to you through channels to buy back some heirloom somebody had pawned to kind of keep themselves afloat, and then Ring bought it?
This makes perfect sense. I love it. Yes.
Okay. So we would have already met and done some business. And I probably found you through just like consorting, talking through the channels. If your character has a reputation as a dealer.
Okay.
Yeah. Ash has definitely been known to provide pawn shop services, generally to people who wouldn't be able to get loans elsewhere in the city, particularly to other Severosi.
Yeah, if Skelly crossed Ash's path, it would probably be because Skelly was looking for someone who may have sold you something or been in your store and just, on the trail trying to find them.
If any of you had crossed paths with Crossroads as the whole person, then it would either be, oh, there's that person with a bird mask taking care of the Death Seeker crows. That person sure is dedicated to their job, and they're totally made of meat. Yep. Real cool.
Yep. That's meat. Faces look like that regularly.
They're so good at breathing oxygen. It's amazing. Totally normal.
They eat food all the time.
They eat food all the time. Or you pass
definitely
by.
have.
Or you pass by their apartment while they were cooking, because that's Crossroads' vice. It likes to cook, but it can't eat, so it just cooks and cooks and cooks, and it cooks really well. So.
Well, Skelly likes to eat. Skelly's vice is that she likes to eat. So
maybe Skelly passed underneath a certain window and yelled up for food, and Crossroads went over, and it was like, well, I'm not eating this.
Yeah, I thoroughly believe that y'all have created like a pure, genuine friendship based on the fact that Crossroads will cook all of the food if Skelly will eat all of it.
Like, I was passing your apartment and saw you dumping it out the window, and I was like, what are you doing? This is a mistake. Please let me help you.
And I would have been like, I'm super full and I made too much.
That's definitely what happened there, obviously. So I have one other question to ask, but before I ask it, I will go over a little tweak that I've made to the crew mechanic in this game. Because obviously it's kind of difficult to form a crew of actual dedicated criminals, as Blades in the Dark kind of encourages you to do. But for the purposes of this game, at the point when you finally all meet in the same place, you will all count as a crew known as a type of crew called fugitives. And it doesn't have the general benefits that a crew has typically in game, but it will do these two very important things, which is for any score that you engage in during the game, you will gain 1 coin per tear of the target, and you will gain an amount of rep relative to how much you discover about the general mystery that is about to take place in this game. We'll go over those specific amounts of rep as they come into play. Also, for the purposes of this game, you will be able to spend rep the same way that you would spend coin if you need to only for the purposes of gaining information from someone, or attempting to avoid a certain circumstance, like being arrested, being beat up by a faction. Those things will come into play as they arrive. Also, you have the one ability as a crew that whenever you end a downtime without gaining any extra heat, you will gain one more rep, which will come in very handy if you want to not be arrested, which is particularly important, I imagine. So, with that, I will ask the one final question that I think we should ask before we begin, which is, where are you all when this action starts?
Are we at like a funeral service? Would that make sense?
Love it.
It would. That would assume, for the purposes of this game, that the deceased party that becomes key to this mystery has been dead for some time now, because it would mean that she's been to a funeral parlor, she's been prepared, a funeral has already taken place. That's probably a matter of 2 or 3 days since she's died.
And the body hasn't been collected for disposal so that its spirit doesn't become a ghost and whatnot, presumably.
I
That
mean,
seems to be a part of this also, this whole...
yes. I mean, if a funeral has been prepared, it means that that body has been taken care of. All ghost-related matters have been dealt with some severity, which will be of particular note, obviously, to Crossroads, because it means that Death Seeker crows were in its immediate vicinity at some point.
Is the dead person the person who built me, or is it somebody
Yes.
else? Okay.
Because you had previously discussed that you were constructed by a friend who has since passed away. I figured to save us time and energy making up a dead person. Fortunately or unfortunately, your friend has passed. Are you present at the funeral then?
Okay.
Because I imagine, even though it does not get very bright in Duskwall, this is taking place during the day, which makes it kind of easy for people to tell that faces don't have beaks. Human faces don't tend to have beaks.
I think I would attend. And put on extra layers, ? To try and look as human soft as possible. And then if anybody asks about my beak face, I'll be like, my face is cold.
That sounds about right, at least to me.
You're hiding your tears.
Yep.
It's a very emotional time for you.
What would everyone else's impetus be to attend this funeral?
Regular customer.
Fair enough. Do you typically attend the funerals of your regular customers still?
When they spend that much money, of course I do, because there was more where that came from. And I wanted to be on the relatives' good side in case they're in the market for an end table with a hidden compartment sometime.
Fair enough. That's good business sense right there. I like it.
You get the jump on estate sales.
Oh God. That's terrible, but I like it. Valerie, Mike, any ideas?
It's possible that I'm either there trying to find someone else who might be related to this person for bounty purposes, or I hesitate to say they were my bounty because that sounds really sketchy. So we'll say I either knew them, had come across them before during business, or because I have been fed routinely by my
you
friend
like
here.
their food more than mine.
Yeah, well, So it's possible that I'm here in sort of solidarity for this purpose. So if it's easier for you that I'm trying to catch someone else who might be at the funeral for bounty purposes, it could be that, or it could just be solidarity. I know this person meant a lot to you.
And Brandon, could the deceased have been either somebody that Ring served with or family of somebody that Ring served with?
I will say that they're family.
Okay.
I have I have a sketch for the character in mind,
Okay.
and it seems perfectly in line for me to say that they were like they were the family of someone that you actually served with for a very long time, somebody who you're actually still very close to. So they also were in attendance. You went to support them mostly, but you were also very favorable with the deceased. She was very pleasant to you in general. She tends to be pleasant with most people. So with that, I guess we shall open on the scene of all four of you present at the funeral of one Runa Kaspa, a devoted friend, sister, and daughter, one of the most beloved neighbors in the city of Brightstone. The funeral is actually kind of packed. The scene has since left the cathedral proper and is now actually interring the body into the cemetery. And around you can see like dozens of people running the gamut from obviously obscenely wealthy to ordinary middle class folk like some of you, all of whom are genuinely in mourning. Some of them have not literally stopped crying since they left the cathedral. I'm going to say that we're just in the process of the pastor saying some final words before we finally place the coffin all the way into the ground. They open the floor to anybody who also wants to say some last words before the procedures, before the entire ritual is finally complete. Would anybody want to say anything?
Crossroads thinks about it and then thinks about being told to pretend to be human and changes its mind because it doesn't know how convincing its voice is.
Okay.
I think Ring would get into the line to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get up to the front, they kind of speak in a voice that carries distance without seeming without seeming severe, just like their volume slider is good, and they're used to speaking across distances.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, the fact that there are this many of us here means that Runa meant a lot to a lot of people, not just something to a few. And the fact that we are here together is a display of our affection for Runa. And as long as that affection is something we carry with us and something we bring into our day in, day out, then Runa is still here. Her spirit doesn't have to be here for her works to be here. And for that, I'm grateful. And I'm grateful to be here with you all. And then they kind of nod.
Mm-hmm. You hear a couple of, particularly like some of the elderly who were in attendance, kind of like they're in the middle of clapping before they figure out that clapping is probably kind of gauche at a funeral, but they do want to kind of affirm that they agree with that kind of sentiment. A couple of them also start crying even more in earnest now. And with that, we start slowly interring Runa's body into the ground. And at this point, I would like anyone who is willing to give me. In fact, I'm just going to say, in fact, that Ring and also Crossroads
Uh-oh.
notices something in the crowd, but you're it like as you're taking in the people in attendance. Ring, you notice that it seems as if around the same cluster of people as those who had just recently started crying, there is a woman there that you don't recognize. And Crossroads, I'm going to say that in that same direction, you notice something in the corner of your eye that looks strange, but you don't tell what. What would you like to do with that vague information?
So because I was a whisper when I was alive, could I use Ghost Mind at this point? Or is that a combat ability? I'm not quite sure what's happening.
It is an ability that you can use in general. I would say that it would not be particularly helpful at this moment.
Okay.
Just to spare you the use of a thing.
But Crossroads would want to hone in on it if it was something strange that pinged their sensors in some way.
I will say that your sensors do kind of pick up that in that same vicinity where you're noticing people having heightened emotional responses, there is someone further to the left of that crowd from you who is to the right of that small cluster of people. Someone to the further left of them is breathing particularly slowly and their heartbeat is particularly steady. Almost as if they are not particularly bothered by the death of this person like everybody else is. But from your actual vantage point, you can't see who that person is through the crowd. You can't actually see their face. You can just sense that.
Okay. I have my sensors just fixed on their heartbeat like a very normal living thing.
Humans do that all the time.
My sensorium is inside my chest, so my chest is just kind of...
Of course, people's coats tilt randomly in one direction all the time.
It's all the organs sliding around, so...
So with that, they start lowering the body into the ground. People are still crying, even much more loudly than they were before. People have broken off into their brief crowd, their little crowds to like talk about how much they miss Runa. Some of them haven't been in the area for quite some time and have come back just for the funeral. Some of them have been here for the longest of whiles and have no idea how could this have possibly happened. All of you can hear some mumblings from those crowds of people who are absolutely confused as to how Runa died in the first place. Those rumors differ. Some of them thought that she had fallen ill. Some that she had been in an accident and gotten seriously injured, lost too much blood. Nobody was around to take care of her before she eventually succumbed to her wounds. And some suspect that she has been murdered, but have no idea how or by whom, and are like thoroughly confused as to why. Like Runa was such a nice person. Why would somebody want to hurt her? And as that's happening, I'd like to hear in particular what Crossroads is doing as these crowds have dispersed.
Is Skelly sticking with Crossroads at this point?
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say that if Skelly came to support Crossroads, then yeah, Skelly would be sticking with it.
And another thing, Brandon, you mentioned that because I was tending the Deathseeker crows, that I would have been there when they went to the body, or would have been somebody else. So, did the body seem murdered? Question mark.
I will say that that's information that you should give me a roll for, but I'll leave the kind of roll to you.
Oh no. Question mark.
So in Blades, we as the players get to decide which action rating we want to use to do a thing. So that's the words hunt, study, survey, tinker, that set of 12.
Well, roll to understand dead body is man.
It seems like a study, maybe?
Survey or study?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think study would be what I would roll. So I have 1 dot in the study action on my sheet. So that means I get 1d6.
Right. So if I recall correctly, you should be able to simply press study. If you click study on your sheet and roll 20, it should just roll for you.
I clicked it and it says risky.
Right. So this is where I get to set the position and effect. So I'm going to say that, in fact, yeah, I'm going to say that the position was controlled.
Okay. And I click submit and effect standard, limited, great, extreme, 0.
And I'm going to say that your effect is limited. I'm going to say that happened rather late at night. You discovered the body. So you were making all of these discoveries in the dark. So
okay.
Yes.
All right, and the bonus dice would be 1 because I have the 1 dot.
I don't believe so. Bonus dice would be if you pushed yourself, got a devil's bargain.
Oh, okay.
Right,
okay.
Yes, you have no bonus dice, so that should be 0.
So I'll just click. It says 4.
Okay. So, all right. I just want to briefly check a thing because I have mildly. Okay, cool. So, that's a partial success. So I'm going to say that on the night when you noticed Runa's body, it did seem to you very obviously that foul play had taken place. But the how do I properly describe this? I'm going to say that you noticed very obviously that it wasn't like purely an accident, essentially. But whether the wounds that you noticed on Runa were self-inflicted or inflicted by someone else, you couldn't determine at the time. But one of the things that you did notice very obviously was that at the scene, there was not as much blood as you would have assumed there would have been given the wounds.
Okay.
But you didn't know what to make of that because at that point, the Death Seeker Crows had already arrived, and you had made the assumption at that point that maybe Runa was freshly dead, and that's why that was the case.
Okay, so given that information, to circle back around to how Crossroads is with Skelly, Skelly notices that Crossroads is like very, very stiff and kind of creaky a little bit, and going, I'm very sad. Yep. Super sad.
Are you saying that because that's the only way for people to determine that you're sad?
Yes.
Or, okay. All right.
I pat their arm. They're there. Meet friend.
Thank you.
This is a very valuable moment at this point in time because now that we've established that you have literally touched Crossroads, have you?
I put on an extra sweater. I'm meat soft.
Okay, meat soft. Okay, I'm pretty sure cotton can't fool someone in that sense, but all right, I'll allow it.
I would assume that armor is possible on anyone in this.
Fair enough. Yes, fair enough.
The coat is leather. It's practically meat.
Okay, all right. So while that's happening, would you say that your sensors are still on that particularly still heartbeat that you noticed earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you notice it coming towards you.
Oh no.
From behind you and a little to the left, you can sense this still very chill heartbeat slowly drifting towards you.
Oh no, I say. Very convincingly.
Oh no, what?
Are you going to?
I gesture through my body as if pointing to myself, but really I'm pointing behind me. I'm like, someone is somebody.
Does that count as enough information for Skelly?
I feel like Skelly is not going to pick up what's being put down right now.
Okay.
But now Skelly is probably going to look in that direction. So she at the very least is going to be like.
Okay. And it's at that point that you notice, walking up to you both from behind is a woman of average height, short brown hair. She's wearing a particularly thick trench coat and heels that are so iridescent that you can't tell in the dim light whether they're crimson red or black, because they're just doing things in the light, and it's difficult to make it out at any one point in time. They seem like particularly flashy shoes for a funeral, you obviously notice, but say what? She walks up to you both, puts her hand on Crossroads' other shoulder, and says very sternly, I think we need to talk.
Says Crossroads.
I mean, if you can't find the words now, we can find them at the station.
The station?
She very, she lifts her head almost with the effort of not really caring whether you notice that she's looking at you or not, and says, this doesn't concern you, citizen. This is between me and this one.
I'm looking at Crossroads now.
Do I know this person? Or
The person who's just approached you, you've never met them before.
okay. Oh no, what would I think? I think I don't know you, though? Question mark in their voice.
That's when they reveal not so much a badge as a lapel pin on the corner of their trench coat that confirms that they're a member of the Bluecoats.
Oh no, I don't actually say that. This is me panicking for my robot.
And she says, "You don't need to know my name for now. You just need to know that I have some questions about Runa Casper's death."
Okay.
Good. I'm glad to hear that you're in agreement. How long did you know Miss Casper?
Is that something I remember?
I feel like that's something you would have to determine on your own. I mean, you have not been a Hull for very long.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have remembered Runa for as long as that.
Okay.
But as far as any memories beyond that, I think you should determine that on your own.
Oh God. Okay, so I don't know if I'm lying. So here we go. I'm gonna say mm, a meaningful amount of time.
The detective, the inspector chuckles to herself.
Oh no. Crossroads hates this.
And like, at this point, she's not even like really looking at you anymore. She's like looking like beyond you.
Oh no. Crossroads super hates this.
And she's like, meaningful is a very particular choice of words. It implies an intense level of commitment to someone. Is that the kind of commitment that would ensure that someone did not find themselves in harm's way, perhaps?
Crossroads thinks really, really hard and thinks, hopefully, this lady with the shoes that it hates very much doesn't hear the gears literally turning and says, she put clothes on me and I like that. So, yes? They don't actually make that face. They can't make that face.
It's just a bird face. It's not.
Yeah.
Some combination of that statement in particular and the fact that you are like obviously very tense at this moment really tells me you should make a roll.
Oh, no. What kind of roll?
I mean, we are trying to keep from this inspector certain very deliberate facts about you that both of which are A, you are in fact a Hull, and B, the answer that you just gave is not only a perfectly decent answer given the circumstance, but not at all inhuman.
Okay. So which stat would I be rolling, or is it just a plain D6?
I want to say that that's definitely sway, unless you want to do something more intense. I mean, if you want to get in a fight with this inspector in this funeral, you could do that, but I wouldn't recommend it.
No, Crossroads is not going to do that. Okay, so I will sway, and because that seems to be the most applicable stat to use.
I will say that I will say that it hasn't gotten desperate yet, so the position is still risky.
Crossroads is feeling desperate.
Would it be reasonable for me to step in and be like, you're at a funeral and their friend died? I don't know what pronouns I would use because I don't think I would use it because I would assume different pronouns for my, because I don't know that it's a whole. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Should I use they them pronouns otherwise? Or?
Yeah, I guess because you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the absence, because if we're pretending to be human, like,
okay,
so would it be reasonable for me to step in and be like, this is their friend's funeral? What? This is not a good time. Can't you see that they're upset? Would I know enough dealing with blue coats in the past to know that saying anything is going to be a problem and I should just be quiet?
I mean, you would. I will say that you will know that blue coats are a pest everywhere. And whether
ACAB, I'm like.
Yeah. Whether you engage or not, a level of hostility is expected. Whether you personally have enough grace to know how to diffuse that kind of situation.
It wouldn't be diffusing. I'd be using command, so it's not a.
Do you want to roll then?
I don't know if it's a good idea. I think I'm a little more subtle than that. I'm just watching this and waiting for the right time to make a hasty exit if necessary while towing my friend.
Okay, so you really so all you're doing is confronting.
I'm surveying the situation right now. I'm just waiting. Cool. I'm biding my time. I will continue. Right. I will continue in silence.
So,
okay,
Crossroads.
So a roll. You ruled it wasn't desperate, but it's
risky.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say because ACAB limited.
Okay.
Would you? I mean, obviously, I guess if you wanted to push yourself and take a devil's bargain, you can say if you would like to, or do you want to just make the straight roll?
I think I will just make the straight roll because Crossroads is not really pushing itself. It's just vaguely panicking and just saying whatever comes to its processor.
Yes.
Okay. So submit.
Ooh.
Oh no.
That's not good.
That's terrible.
That's actually not very ideal.
R.I.P. in peace. Press F to pay respects to me.
A 3 is a failure. Which means in this instance that I'm going to say that while this inspector does not come to the immediate assumption, at least, that you are in fact a Hull, she is very curious about the ticking noises that are being produced by your clothes.
Oh no, I knew I should have carried a box of centipedes with me today. I don't say this. I don't say this.
We're learning a lot about Crossroads in a monologue during this game.
Your
Crossroads internal monologue.
Again.
Crossroads internal monologue is so much, and I love it.
Yeah. It's brilliant. I love it a lot.
I actually want it to be outside to be able to do that and be like, Crossroads, you're doing it again. You're accidentally just saying things out loud.
So I'm gonna say at that moment, our inspector immediately looks down at your chest. She seems incredibly alert. I'm going to say Skelly notices very obviously that that's the kind of alertness of somebody who is wary of needing to get in a fight in this immediate moment. And she asks, "What do you have under there?"
I don't think I'm quick enough to give any kind of a lie about this, but let me think.
Wait, the inspector is looking at me and not at.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and not at Skelly.
Mm-hmm. The inspector is looking at Crossroads. Yes.
Okay. Crossroads thinks really desperately, and says, my body. I have my body.
I think maybe now is the time that Skelly's going to be like, this is definitely going downhill. And so at this point, she will step in. And I think I am going to try for a command roll, maybe. I don't know if any other characters are going to see us going down, but I am going to step forward, loom a little bit, and say, are you really going to be starting things at a funeral? Is this necessary? Look around you. There are people in mourning. Runa was well loved. Is this the place that you want to start something?
Okay, so before we roll, I want to specify a thing that I think will be particularly interesting for that roll, which is at that specific moment that you make that statement, it becomes obvious to other clusters of people at the funeral that a scene is taking place here. They can't.
I look around for chairs to throw. Like,
oh god, they haven't heard anything up until you spoke, and they haven't noticed that that person was a blue coat until they've turned. But now, a handful of other people around the cemetery have noticed that the three of you are experiencing a thing. So, with that being said, I'm going to set your position at risky, but your effect, I think, is standard.
Okay.
And I will give you one bonus die because the eyes of this entire funeral are now on this inspector, and that may or may not affect their response.
Anybody else gonna chime in before I roll?
Would it make sense for Skelly to catch Ring's eye as this is escalating?
I think you're one of the people who immediately notices the thing, in fact. And when you notice that Skelly is involved, both of you trade a glance almost immediately.
Yeah, and I think Ring would escalate. I'm pulling myself back from the thing that I want to do, which would go very poorly for all of us, which is to press a concealed palm pistol into the back of the coat of the inspector. But instead, I think what Ring will do is walk into view and kind of basically extend their aura and try to grab the attention of the inspector, being like, what are you doing here? Get out of here. This is a place of mourning. Have you no respect? And I want to spend a stress to aid Skelly.
Okay.
So while this has been going on, Ash didn't really previously take notice because there's this, God, she doesn't know if he's like a sibling or a cousin or what. This person never came into the shop with Runa, but he is crying so much. And she's pretty sure he's some kind of family member. And when she notices that this commotion is going on and that there is a cop in here disrupting the funeral, she walks over and she brings loudly crying family member with her. And we're just going to go in on the guilt trip now. She's not even going to say anything. She's just going to bring this extremely crying person into the officer's personal space bubble.
Do I have 3 bonus die now?
I'm not sure that's actually a helpful action on Ash's part.
I would like to point out that because there is a loudly crying family member, the officer can no longer hear my extremely human guts doing their human guts thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very healthy person, full of organs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All my blood is on the inside where it should be.
Mm-hmm. Moving at high velocity and under intense pressure. Yeah, of course.
My eyes are up here.
Jesus
not
Christ.
in this area.
So I'm going to say that while crying family member is a beautiful touch. It is still an extension of the watching crowd. So I'm going to say you have 2 bonus dice total.
All right, here we go.
Jesus. Okay. 5 is in fact a partial success. So I am going to say that the officer is clearly rattled at this point. She had no intention of making a scene. She does know, in fact, that it is kind of gauche to try to interrogate someone during a funeral. So I'm going to say then that what she decides at that point is to she leans into Crossroads.
Oh no, Crossroads hates that.
And says very, very sternly in a very cold, calculating voice. We're going to prove that you did it. And we're going to ask you where you put the seal. And then you're never going to see daylight again. And then she lets go of you and leaves. Nodding very, she bows very, courteously to as much people as possible to try to save face. Flees. Just walks all the way out of the cemetery. How do you all respond to that?
Ash didn't hear it because Weeper is right in her ear.
Crossroads goes.
Skelly definitely makes a crude gesture to the back of the cop.
Says Crossroads.
Are you okay?
Extremely moistly.
God. Oh God.
The insides of people are moist, so I'm specifying.
You okay there, buddy?
No.
I'm sorry, cops are jerks.
Yep. Oh no.
You should find that cop later.
Oh.
Okay, sorry, never mind.
Is the inspector leaving?
At this point, the inspector has all the way left the cemetery. Is no longer within eyeshot.
So I think Ring would turn to Skelly and be like, "Is your friend all right?"
No, a cop's being a dick at a funeral.
What was with the heels?
I hated them a lot.
Nothing like fancy shoes strolling up on a joint like this. They said you killed Runa? What kind of nonsense?
I didn't do it.
I'm Ring. Sorry about
I'm convinced. All right. Do you know anything about the seal that they're talking about?
I used one to glue letters together when I write things. But
that's handy. Wish I knew how to write.
Everyone knows where that is on my desk. So I don't think that's what she was talking about.
Have any of us heard anything about any kind of seal on the street at this point? Is there? It sounds very secret and mysterious.
Ash does hear that, and she looks up and she's like, object or animal? Because I did move an animal through a few weeks ago.
Was it a seal?
Okay, so
what?
You know how the aquarium's been having trouble getting funding?
No.
There's a guy, he breeds them. I had to help the aquarium buy a seal.
Oh, says Crossroads. and realizing that there's an awkward pause in the conversation, attempts very humanly to cover up the awkward pause in the conversation by saying, "It must have breathed real nice."
Very wetly, but yes, it was certainly a breathing seal.
Immediately at that moment during that,
It's just that everybody looks at Crossroads.
totally like not at all awkward statement, one of the elderly attendees at the funeral comes over. Uh Short, slim woman, all black, no veil, walks with a cane that you can very clearly see is almost about to like crack under her weight, that she's had it so long, but somehow still manages very sturdily to keep her on her feet. And she comes over to all of you and asks, "Are you all right? That looked like quite a ruckus. What did the bluecoats have to do with Runa's passing?"
You know, bluecoats always looking for bribes. They're jerks.
Indeed, true, but I don't know why they would trouble the funerals for such a nice woman like Runa. Never caused any trouble. Never got on the wrong side of anyone, let alone the law.
No respect.
Maybe because they like looking at bodies, says Crossroads, having just had its body looked at very rudely, it thinks, and people don't like their bodies being looked at like that. So Crossroads thinks this is a pretty good thing to say.
The old woman laughs, as if like that's a perfectly reasonable joke to make. That does not raise any red flags about your humanity whatsoever. And says, "Well, I hope that they don't trouble you all very much. I know that we're all good people over here trying to do our best to survive in these troubling times. I guess if they ever trouble you again, or if you need anything from me or anyone else, you can feel free to let us know." And she gives you a business card that says that her name is Cheryl Rivas, and it has no other verifiable information, no occupation, anything except for her name and an address in Brightstone.
Who does she give the card to?
She holds it forward generally. It's like kind of between Crossroads and Skelly. Like she's just like waiting for anybody to take it at this point.
Oh, okay.
We'll take it because I assume Crossroads is not reaching for it. Crossroads, are you just standing there staring at the card, or?
Crossroads kind of moves their hands up to their chest as if they're kind of nervous at this card moving forward, but really Crossroads is thinking about, if I take it, is it gonna give away the fact that my hands are not fleshy inside my gloves?
I interpret it as discomfort and I take the card then, yes.
Duly noted.
Thanks.
And with that, I do want to just add the one thing, which is Ash. Over the like din of this one singular family member crying, you notice very earnestly that there are two gentlemen off to one side having what seems to be a very intense conversation, but you cannot tell what. And one of them turns to you and goes, "You know he's not family, right?"
Then what is he? Besides disruptive.
A fella, I suppose. And he just kind of shrugs and goes back into this very intense conversation taking place in this corner here.
Ash hasn't been to the buffet table yet. She's not leaving here until she gets her free sandwich. So now she is going to be trying very hard to deposit this fellow onto someone else's shoulder.
Do it to Ring. Do it to Ring.
Ring would happily kind of make a nod with their head and kind of greet and attempt to console this person that they probably have never met, and walk them over to some other people that are still kind of standing around and chatting and sharing good memories of Runa.
Ash is going to shift that burden over to Ring, very gratefully.
Okay, and
it absolutely would not be the first time that Ring has basically like pelican parented over a crying person they've never met before.
Now that I'm aware that there are sandwiches, there's definitely going to be sandwiches in our future. Skelly's like, wait, what? There's food here?
Funeral buffet.
Definitely.
And it's quite a lavish one indeed.
Oh, nice.
They've made sandwiches of things that even we right now, out of character in the real world of 2020, would never imagine can be constructed as a sandwich.
Oh no.
There's like whole plated meals. Like there is like enough food here that if they decided to just give it away, no one for three or four boroughs of Duskwall would ever have to go hungry again. Well, at least for the week. And it's all like just there prepared on this very long. The tablecloth gives it the appearance that it's a very long table, like the length of an average ballroom, but it's really just like 3 or 4 tables hobbled together, and y'all are free to just take as much food as you like, especially because apparently most of the crowd around you are actually not eating any of the entire meals. They're like picking from hors d'oeuvres, or mostly having champagne, which is all the way at the furthest right of the table.
And definitely at that point, I'm going to be like, hey, you hungry?
To
Crossroads.
Crossroads frantically checks the time, if that can be done in here. Basically, it's checking to see if it's like a meal time for stomachs.
It is. It is not.
Just say that out loud. It's like, is it a mealtime for stomachs? And then Shelly would be like, it's a funeral. We'll take it home with us if we need to. Come on.
Yeah. I'm gonna say at this point it's like the equivalent of like 1:30. So like no one here has eaten lunch because obviously they were at a funeral. But it's like it's long afternoon at this point. So
right,
is who is at? I want to find out who is at the buffet table at this point. Skelly, Ash, Crossroads. Are you with Skelly?
After frantically checking the time to see if it's stomach acceptable to be at a buffet table, Crossroads beelines after Skelly.
Okay.
And then stands awkwardly at the buffet table.
I just hand things to Crossroads. Like,
okay.
Just assuming, like, here, have some food.
Okay, Crossroads is holding a plate, I guess, full of food.
Ash
and then within 10 minutes, I'm going to be like, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Ash notices that Crossroads is a little at a loss and believes this to just be choice paralysis. So she just starts putting a couple pigs in the blanket on and Crossroads' plate for them.
Oh. says Crossroads.
No, these ones are really good.
Skelly's
Oh.
alternating between putting things on the plate and putting them in her mouth.
So the beak of Crossroads' head kind of jerks towards Scully as if, oh yeah, that's what should be done. And they like, it takes the pick in a blanket, and as you see the beak unhinge, and they just put the whole thing into its face. And yeah, closed beak.
Okay.
Delicious.
Very normal human activity.
Human mouths do things like that. Yes. Yes.
Perfectly
I believe
reasonable way to eat.
I would like to specify that the food goes down a throat into a gullet where it stays whole for digestion to the DM. Crossroads is not narrating its internal lack of digestive power to anybody.
Which I translate as there is a length of PVC piping that stretches from the back of your beak all the way down to like a small like iron
gunny
box.
sack. Yeah.
A small cloth bag in your right foot that you literally have to remove and throw away every time you pretend to eat.
I feel like that would be too long. I think it just goes right into the front of the chest or something.
But then, would you want people encountering undigested food in your chest? But that's me.
Crossroads just gives it to my character later, but she has no idea. She has no understanding of the process.
Yeah, there's a sack inside.
It just gives you a plastic bag full of food.
Yeah, I'm just gonna unhook it and be like, here you go.
Oh, thanks. These are good mushrooms.
Yeah,
but that's in the future because I would have to open the coat to do all of that, and I'm not doing that here.
And while that is happening, just before we end this scene, I will just mention very idly that Ash notices that the two gentlemen who spoke earlier, highlighting that the crying guest was not family, have very intensely looked at you all. And in particular is looking specifically at you, Ash. And then they're very intensely, get up and leave.
What do they look like?
Meat.
They're both like both average height.
Yes, one helps.
Both average height. One dresses more neatly than the other, but you can tell that they're not like of means. They're just doing the best of their middle class money. One of them
and me both, buddy.
One of them very obviously has what looks like stains on their hands that you can notice when you saw them the first time. Other than that, you can't make out much more by the time they've gotten up to leave. But you can perhaps roll to get some minor bits of information before they disappear.
I'm specifically interested in knowing what color those stains are. I'm going to roll survey, I think.
I'm going to say that that's controlled and limited.
Is there a place in the input value where I was supposed to put limited, or is that a mechanic on your end?
Right. So first, when you click survey, it will bring up the position, and the position is controlled. And when you press submit, the effect is limited.
Because bonus dice?
I will say you have no bonus dice unless somebody, I guess, wants to help them somehow. I'm not sure how one would.
Busy eating.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they're two randos. You guys have no reason to notice them.
Oh, Jesus. Well, all right.
Damn. Good rolls.
Right. So you notice you notice very it strikes you as actually immediately very interesting when you focus on the stains on their hands, that A lot of it is brown and looks like very, very soft mud. But you can notice that some very small portions of it are very obviously blood. And you also obviously notice that there is blood on the right um, cuff of the other man's pants.
Ash, upon seeing that, is like, well, they got into trouble, but I don't think it's the particular trouble that led to Luna's death, because surely to God they would have showered in the last 2-3 days.
Do you say any
Wash
of this aloud?
that off. No, she keeps it to herself.
Okay, and with that, this scene has now ended.
The last thing that Shelly does
Mhm.
is go over to Crossroads and be like, "You gonna eat that?"
No, I'm full, says Crossroads very convincingly.
Cool. Let me help you out.
Okay. So at this point, I would say I would ask if there's anything that anyone would want to do outside of this funeral setting, whether as a downtime action or if they have any like immediate like concerns that they would like to dig into that would take the shape of a score. We can talk about what those things might be now and see if that's a good place to follow up from this point.
I have a lot of questions. Cops, seals, animals. We're not sure what's going on. I don't like it.
Ash is going to go back to her shop. Right now, she's got another Severosi who is new to the city, kind of staying in the back room, kind of on the down low. So she's just going to run in with some groceries. Also, she's going to check her messages. Looks like the guy from the aquarium is asking if he could get a little help finding a pelican. She knew a guy for the seal. She does not know a guy for the pelican. But, you know, an aquarium's a noble cause.
Okay. I will add then that you have also gotten another message. There is a postcard on your desk.
Better not be my mother.
It's like it's not high quality card stock, but something about it stands out. It feels like it's less of a postcard and more like somebody cut a piece of corrugated cardboard into these dimensions. And on one side there is just an embossed stamp that has the letter A in it. And on the other side is very neatly written text that says, I have been alerted to the fact that you are very resourceful in the acquisition of certain objects. Please let us know whether you'd be available to help source and appraise the value of an and there's like this big large black smudge where a word was supposed to be that obviously a finger kind of ate, and that is no longer discernible. And they gave a random series of numbers at the bottom that you can possibly discern the meaning of right now, but other than that, they just appear to be a series of numbers, and there's no other information on either side of the card.
Ash kind of rolls her eyes a little and she goes, "Oh, a redacted! My favorite thing to appraise." She hates this. She is going to get dragged out, and it's going to be some bullshit that someone found in Grandma's attic when they were cleaning it out, and she's going to have to explain that this like weird cherub statue has no market value. It's going to be a nightmare. She's not looking forward to this.
Okay. So you are going to be at your office for a relatively decent amount of time.
Yep.
So I will say that one other thing happens. Just briefly around the exact same time that you've noticed this card and been sufficiently annoyed. A well-dressed man, a very neat coat. There is a gold chain that obviously leads to a pocket watch to his left trouser pocket. Shoes just mildly speckled with mud from outside, but otherwise seem like high quality loafers. Walks in, and when he's like confidently inside, he stops for a moment, takes a glance at all of the wares that you already have on display, and then turns around and locks your door. And then he sits down and says, whenever you're available, I'd like to potentially get your attention about something.
Ash sighs, and she opens her desk drawer, and she gets out the bottle of brandy and 2 little cups, and they are not proper brandy snifters at all. It looks like these were teacups in a better life when they might have had saucers and possibly less chips. But she pours some brandy for each of them and slides a cup over to him, and she goes, "Let's hear it. Please don't make this about some painting you found in the attic. I promise you, your grandpa was not secretly a famous artist."
The man chuckles to himself. He lifts the cup, takes like a very cursory smell of it, pauses for a moment, trying not to obviously show abject disgust on his face, and then puts it back down and says, I am not one of those kinds of folks, unfortunately. I imagine you must get a lot of joy poking fun at some of the idler folk that walk into your store on a regular basis. I'm here for a completely different proposition. One that I would like to keep discreet as much as possible. I'd like to know if that's amenable to you.
Is this a drugs thing? We don't do drugs in this shop. You have to go 3 doors down, knock twice, ask for Charlie.
Everyone does drugs in Duskwall, but this is not about drugs. This is about something different. I need to be absolutely sure that when I say what this is about, you're not going to behave as hysterically as some others might.
I don't call cops. I am not promising to get involved with you. Who here? As long as you don't stain the carpet, I promise not to scream. That's going to have to be good enough for you. Be warned, I am extremely fond of this carpet.
He looks down, and then he looks back up to you very earnestly and says, "You really shouldn't be."
He's right. It's like an orange paisley. It's the worst. It's an objectively terrible carpet.
And then he says, all right, let's let's consider some hypotheticals then. Hypothetically, if someone were representing an organization of devotees of a discrete faith who are hoping to acquire one of their special artifacts and need someone who they can trust to do all of the heavy lifting required without divulging their relationship. Would they be able to ask you or one of your associates for that assistance?
Is the artifact in question intended for use in human sacrifice and or a byproduct of a past human sacrifice?
It is not.
Cool. Ask if it is gonna hurt holes. Cool.
Oh God!
Ash has no reason to ask that because she doesn't know that Crossroads is a hull. Crossroads is definitely a person who is definitely made of meat.
Yeah.
Crossroads is 100% flesh person as far as Ash is concerned and has a healthy human appetite to boot.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, what do you say? I mean,
Assuming
no
that
blood.
I am not exposing myself to some sort of wild, dark curse, I could be interested for the right price. Or if it's not something I want to do myself, I can think of a couple people who wouldn't have objections.
Okay. Here is where things get hairy. You seem to be averse to bloodshed. Might I ask why?
It's just so messy.
What if we
I don't like dust. I don't like fluids.
What if we assured you that the mess would be cleaned up and no one would know, so long as you were willing to make the mess?
Ooh. Are we suggesting hurting people? I hate hurting people. It's such a noisy business.
I mean, you wouldn't be hurting people. You'd be hurting one person.
Semantics.
Fair enough. Your fee would be whatever you call. It is literally not an object for us. It's just very important that we acquire this object. You have literally been in immediate contact with someone we believe will be in possession of it. And all we need you to do is ensure that we can acquire it and assure us that they will not come looking for us or it afterward by any means necessary.
You say I've been in contact with the person who has it.
Hypothetically.
If I had been hypothetically in contact with the person who has it, I would be even more averse to hurting them.
Perhaps. Is there a number of gold coins in the world that would potentially make you care less?
Ash looks around the shop. And she's looking at this one particular sealed jar in back. It's a nice jar. Really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an amphora style shape.
Mm-hmm.
Those lovely fluted handles. There's a lid on it. The lid is sealed. The jar is inlaid with, could be rubies, could be garnets. You know, you'd really need to get up close to have a better shot of telling. And she says, tell you what, you take that jar and you tell me what you're after.
The gentleman looks over at the jar and is like, he's very vaguely appraising it.
The condition of me hearing out the rest of your offer is that you purchase that jar from me.
Okay, you're gonna have to roll at this point, I feel, because they're looking at the jar like, I have all I literally have more I have more copies of every individual jewel inlaid in this jar than there are in the jar. Why would I care about this jar?
I feel like this is a sway roll, right?
Yes, potentially.
Risky?
I'm going to say it's controlled, obviously. But it is limited because he's really not interested in buying anything other than the thing that he came here to acquire. But I will give you a bonus die only because I feel like, from the perspective of, well, I need to do anything to get this thing, he's still vaguely considering the possibility of just buying the amphora and throwing it away. So yes, that's it.
Okay.
Well,
ouch.
Both of those things are failures. So he turns back to you and says, how about instead, I don't buy the jar and we just continue engaging in our transaction as if whatever price you call is the price of the object and the jar. Also, what the fuck is in that jar?
Ash really debates if she wants to answer that. And then she shrugs and goes, ancestral curse. I've been trying to sell it for years.
He stops for a moment. He's looking very like, he kind of looks through you for a moment as if he's like trying to focus on something that's very far away. Then he gets up very slowly and actually walks up towards the jar.
She calls after him, completely straight-faced. It's an ancient Severosi secret.
I can imagine, he says, but he does not actually turn around to look at you. And he holds it by its handles and just looks at the lid on top. And he's literally squinting at it. And then he shrugs and then he puts it back down and says, yes, I definitely won't be needing the jar. But the thing that I will be needing, I will still need to discuss the terms of. We can have this conversation at a later date, but I can at least tell you who we believe will at least have information on its whereabouts. And he makes his way to the door, unlocks it, and just before he steps out, he says, you should perhaps ask for your friend Crossroads and see what they may know about the object. And then he goes out on his way.
And Ash screams after him, "Who the blazes is Crossroads?" Because Crossroads was never formally introduced to her, and she doesn't know their name.
Yeah. And he doesn't know that you don't know. So.
And she sees that he hasn't touched the brandy, which is fair because it's approximately 2 steps short of nail polish remover. So she downs it.
So that was that. Does anyone else want to be up to any other shenanigans?
Okay, so because I was looked at in a very discerning way, in a way that suggests that someone could hear my organs, I am going to take a box of the crickets that I used to feed the Death Seeker crows, and I'm just gonna put it on my body under my coat.
That's absolutely what the human circulation system sounds like.
Okay. Right. What do you mean what do you mean when you say that you're putting the crickets on you? What do you you just empty the what
So I have a beautiful cardboard container for the purposes of carrying live small things that will be eaten by live slightly bigger things.
Mm.
And I assume that, like any other human, I have a chest cavity.
So you're putting the box inside your very human iron chest.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to let you know in advance. You're gonna have to sway a lot of people. This is so grand.
First, at this point, it's like, hey, are you okay? Because I think maybe you have crickets.
Wait, so I'm going to assume that this happens while Crossroads is alone. Where are you?
Yes, I guess wherever I would receive live crickets. So either at my workplace or at my home.
Right. Okay. Because I had assumed, for the purposes of this story, that you have been working from home, that you and your previous master would literally just like walk every once in a while from your home to the place where Death Seeker crows come to rest whenever they're not inspecting bodies, and you would feed them from there and then just go back home. So I'm going to assume for those purposes that you are indeed home.
Okay.
For the purposes of just finding out, can you describe what the state of your place looks like since Runa has been like removed from your apartment? Like,
it is very neat because people who are alive like to maintain things. So Crossroads has maintained the apartment. There's probably a lot of food in the fridge, if there are fridges in this world, I do not know, or the icebox if it's an icebox. But yeah, it basically looks, perhaps besides from the stains that Crossroads couldn't get out, that more or less things have continued as normal. Except for all the areas that belong specifically to Runa, all of that has been completely untouched. Like, Crossroads didn't want to mess with it.
Okay. And you are by yourself, I presume?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless Skelly, for whatever reason, decided to follow me, in which case I do not put crickets in my chest.
I mean, Skelly can decide to arrive after the crickets are already in your chest, but like...
Or perhaps I walked Crossroads home and then departed from there without going inside to perceive the cricket activities.
Yes, fair enough.
That's private. That's between you and the crickets. I don't know if crickets can consent, but
Okay.
not my business.
So after assuming that there are a number of crickets, very confidently in your chest at the moment.
I could have made them butterflies if you wanted.
Nah, well, we'll settle on crickets. Cricket sounds like a beautifully bad idea.
No, it's a good idea. My robot's very smart.
Yes, very smart and making meat-based decisions.
Yes.
Right, there's a knock on your door.
Oh no. Crossroads buttons up coat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Real quick, I would have stuck around outside though, because I think the cop's coming back. So I would have waited with like an eye on the building, just to be clear.
Okay.
Because I'm suspicious and
I'm
also very patient.
where are you then?
Okay, so depending on the configuration of the neighborhood, the building, I just want to be somewhere so that I can see, ideally, the front door and possibly also the apartment. Is there a back door? You know, what is the configuration of the building such that I would be expecting other potential entrances and exits, sort of thing. I would expect them to come in the front door because they're cops, but you never know with cops.
Mm-hmm. So what occurs to me is that the apartment is on the second floor of an apartment building. There are two exits, but one is accessible by the front stairs and the other leads to what should be essentially a fire escape, but is really just a ladder that goes down from everybody's back door.
I'm surprised the ladder hasn't been stolen. I mean, that's good. It's a classy building.
I'm gonna say for these purposes then that it would be kind of difficult for you to get advantage of the apartment without being in someone else's building nearby. So I'm going to say that you're probably downstairs near the staircase.
Okay.
Which gives you a good opportunity to witness the two people who are presently on the staircase. Would you like to learn anything more about those two people?
I am definitely surveying the situation. Would you like me to roll?
I would. I'm gonna say that that's risky.
Okay.
And I will say that the effect is standard.
All right, and no bonus dice, I assume?
Nope.
Alrighty, let's see what happens. I'm skulking somewhere nearby, keeping an eye on things.
4 is a partial success. So what you can discern, very obviously, there is both of these people are in navy blue cloaks with hoods that look like they've been attached to them. And you recognize those cloaks because those like randomly attached hoods are the plainclothes uniform of blue coats that are trying to surreptitiously kidnap people.
What do these guys think they're fooling? It's ridiculous.
Why would you have matching surreptitious uniforms?
Because they're cops.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
why does nearly every off-duty cop vehicle in the U.S. like the same make and model that's always, depending on the area, black or white? Like,
yeah.
Buy in bulk for discounts.
Also, it mostly exists that way so they can benefit from the fear and suspicion of other people. So people can just go out. You know what? That looks like somebody I don't want to have to deal with. I'll just go back to my home. You cannot see either of their faces, but you can make out Skelly. That one is the height of the inspector that you met earlier.
What about the shoes? The same stupid shoes?
Oh, the ugly shoes.
Ugly shoes. No?
They're both wearing loafers.
Okay, well,
Uh,
that's better.
for the purposes of just letting you know, I let you know that you can tell because you've seen enough wealthy people at this point. Those loafers cost more than any physical object that you've ever had in your life.
What a bunch of pricks. All right.
And
Yeah.
Why would they come to kidnap me in expensive shoes?
And the second person, his shoes are in a mess. All of his clothes are in a mess. You can vaguely tell that something about his right arm gives the impression that he's recently been seriously injured. And you can tell that he is slightly more heavy set than the inspector is.
All right.
He's the one that knocks on the door.
Got it.
When you say knock on the door, because I'm on the upper floor, is it the door of the building or the door of the apartment?
The door of your apartment.
Oh. Crossroads, buttons up, their very human coat, and goes forward, turns head this way, looks at keyhole. Because they have the beak and they can't look like that. And I see two shady people, I guess.
In the keyhole, you see the very intense bulging eye of one man that you've never met, peering right back at you through the keyhole.
Oh no, I hate that. Crossroads thinks to itself. And
He thumps on the door one more time and says, "I'm not going to knock again."
Oh.
Note that they have not identified themselves as the police yet.
Oh, says Crossroads after he says, "I am not going to knock again," and says, "Goodbye then. Have a nice day."
He immediately kicks the door.
Well, I'm still looking through it.
Exactly. So like there is this moment where you expect a door to rush like all the way against a human person, but just goes thud against your chest.
Oh. So have they broken down my
You're supposed
door?
to say ouch. Humans say ouch. People made of meat say ouch.
Wait, do I feel pain as a whole?
I mean, no. You have armor and spirits don't feel pain.
Oh, but my crickets.
Oh yes, your crickets are quite disturbed. They're making a ruckus in your chest. Also, you should probably respond to the fact that you are still essentially keeping the door, the door that has been removed from its hinges from the pressure of this kick, still so close to its door jamb that they still cannot enter, which is probably going to raise some questions.
Crossroads freezes, processes all of this information very quickly, and then springs back and goes extremely convincingly, "My crickets."
Okay. The two blue coats enter your room. Okay, all right. For a moment, they walk in and they have no idea where you are relative to the rest of the room, even though, like, the guy, like, would have expected at this point that you would have, like, moved from the door, and then, like, the door just kind of shifts off of you as you lean back on the nearby wall, and they can see that you are there in your very
clutching my chest where all the cricket noises are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm distressed about my crickets.
I can see that, and the and the inspector that you met at the funeral goes, now that you're alone, we should probably have that conversation that we were trying to have earlier. She's
Okay.
very obviously hearing the crickets. She thinks that the crickets are behind you. I'm just going to give you that now.
Okay, cool.
At this moment, she thinks that the crickets are behind you. I'm going to give you that one respite for this one moment. So
That's amazing. Let's see. Crossroads maintains that position and says, okay,
Are you?
that's
So-
it.
So she pulls up a chair from like the nearby faux dining table. Like you have a coffee table near the door that works as the only functioning dining table, and she takes one of the wooden chairs and turns it backwards and sits.
The
Yeah.
regular sit chair
Yep.
thing.
She's giving you the detective sit. And she
Crossroads
says,
does not know what that is, but Crossroads hates it.
while that is happening, the other detective is literally rummaging around in your personal effects. Like he's like lifting entire pieces of things and dropping them on the floor as if he's looking for something.
Okay.
And meanwhile, the first detective is looking at you and says, so, we were going to ask you about Runa and how you said that you've known her for quite some time. And yet,
Meaningful time.
yes, a meaningful time.
She means a lot to me.
Did she mean so much to you that several hours had to pass until you realized that she was dead?
Yes, because I have a job. I was doing my job.
The job that you do with
Outside.
Runa.
No, I do my job because it's my job.
And why is Runa here then? Why was she here? What's your relationship with Runa?
Because no, I mean like why was Runa in the apartment? Like were we living together because she built me?
Is an assumption that I initially made, but we can make another assumption if you like.
Okay, so we'll say that then.
What are you going to say?
Crossroads says she was here to put clothes on me.
To put clothes on you.
Yes. And take them off sometimes.
So the nature of your relationship was sexual then?
What?
Why do I feel like I'm not going to get any straight answers from you whatsoever until I put you in shackles and squeeze those answers out of you?
No, my crickets.
At this point, she is very acutely aware of the fact that she has been hearing crickets making a whole lot of noise the whole time.
Thought I was being
And
so
now
smart.
has no idea where the crickets are relative to you, where she can hear them. And now she wants to know where those crickets are, but she's not going to say anything. You can just see on her face, she's kind of curious why you're worried about crickets that are nowhere to be seen and yet everywhere to be heard. Just letting you know that that's a concern that you presently have.
Okay, Crossroads is super concerned.
Okay. At this point, the other blue coat randomly picks up a framed photograph. black and white, as is the expectation of this point in time, of Runa and another individual. You know that this other individual is, well, you have the vague like the vaguest tendrils of a memory tell you whenever you look at that photo that that other person was you before you got this body, but you know very little about that person or what that person was like or what was happening in this photo when it was taken. And you keep it in part because Runa kept it, because it's Runa's.
Yeah, and I would not have touched it since Runa died. So.
But when this other blue coat picks it up, he points at that other person and goes, well, where are they? Where's this person, huh? Do you get rid of them too?
Crossroads goes, no. No. Cricket, 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 cricket.
I feel like you need to make a roll.
Okay. What kind of roll am I making?
I mean, you need to tell me, but not only is everyone in an extreme doubt that you are being honest with them about anything, they are now very wary about all of the sounds that are being made in this room.
Okay. I guess that's a sway.
If you would like to sway them, yes. You can make all kinds of other decisions, like get in a fist fight with the blue coats or run. But if you want to sway them, you can do that as well. I should also ask Skelly. Two blue coats just kicked down your friend's door. I am monitoring
the situation. Yeah, and so I definitely would have tried to, we'll say surreptitiously move into the building, because presumably there's some sort of hallway or something outside of the room, such that I might be able to follow them in after they bust in and just kind of linger there and keep an ear on things? Or is that not a reasonable thing given the configuration of the building?
In the configuration of this genuinely very bad apartment building, your available options are go up the staircase where they will see you through the now broken door.
Right.
Or try to sneak into the apartment via the back door and try to not be seen from any of the rooms where the other blue coat has not presently entered yet.
If I stay just like outside of the door that they entered in, can I hear them? Because the door is broken down, so there's not a door like blocking. So is it possible for me to hear them talking? Okay. So then I might still just stay outside as long as I can keep an ear on the situation. But I'm definitely trying to think of a way to extract my friend if things continue in a negative direction. And I'm aware that it's probably best to try to extract them before handcuffs happen rather than after. And I'm trying to think of what I would have on my person besides a bag of leftovers, which may suffice for this purpose.
Just beat a police officer over the head with...
No, it's just more like just yell catch and throw it at them and see what happens.
Fair enough.
So,
I'm not to that point yet. I'm still monitoring the situation, I think, right now. But
yes. So Crossroads.
Yeah. Where are the birds actually? That's going to be another thought because
the Death Seeker crows?
Yeah, are they on the roof? Are they in the apartment? Are they somewhere else? The job is done elsewhere.
2 or 3 of them tend to like follow all the way to the apartment, but on a regular basis they tend not to get into this area. It actually kind of bodes poorly to have Death Seeker crows in your area because it implies idly that death is so regular to this location that they just kind of hang out here, which people don't like and tend to consider very negatively. But yes,
And
you can see a couple, but not
As
an
as
entire
as
swarm.
Death Seeker crows, are they not interested in the leftovers that I have at my disposal? Like, okay.
Nah, they don't give a damn. They'll only
Okay.
actually eat proper food from Crossroads because Crossroads goes out of its way to feed them. Other than that, it actually does not care about anything or anyone except the dead.
All right then.
Okay, so after very awkwardly but truthfully saying that no, Crossroads did not in fact do away with the person in the photo, which the nasty people in the blue don't know is actually them. Crossroads, in a bolt of desperate inspiration, says, how about we have some tea and talk about stuff?
So the first detective freezes for a moment and is looking at you absolutely confusedly. And then
No.
just kind of chuckles to herself and goes, you know what? You're right. We should have some tea. I know we could get some very, very good tea and have a very long conversation about all of the stuff we want. At the station, and immediately the other police officer grabs you by the shoulder.
Oh no. Thanks, Crossroads.
I feel like this is a good opportunity to take any action that you would like.
Man, I feel like Crossroads would really freaking panic if somebody grabbed them.
I
Grabs it.
also feel so, but you can panic all the way to the station.
How do I roll to panic?
You do not.
So I have a suggestion in case it's useful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If Crossroads used to be a whisper, would it reach out to the ghost field when panicking and use a tune to try to do something using its old whisper trick bag of tricks?
So I will say, for the purposes of actions, that actually sounds very intriguing.
Okay.
If we want to discover together what the consequences of that will be, because I also feel like because we're engaging in a state of panic, we don't actually have any intention. This is just happening, and you're taking responsibility for the consequences of what happens. So I will say that if you wanted to do that, that would be from a desperate position and with great effect.
Okay, so Crossroads panics and attunes by accident, I guess. Just kind of their ghosty self exploding out into the spooky fields of existence, I suppose.
Oh my god, ghost crickets. I'm sorry. Oh.
Yeah. So how do I guess I roll to attune? Is that the roll for this? Okay. So I will roll to attune, and you say that it's risky?
Your position is desperate.
Desperate? Oh.
And your effect is great.
Oh no. Okay.
And you have no bonus dice.
No bonus dice. Because this is purely a reflexive panic thing. I'm not actually trying. So Crossroads does that.
Jesus. Okay.
That's the second okay I got from you.
Right. So two things happen very immediately and very disconnectedly to each other.
Oh wait, just as a question, when someone attunes to something, particularly a former whisper / current whisper, does that look like anything? Does it manifest physically, or does it appear that nothing has happened?
Especially because you do not have a body. Well, you do not have a body made of meat.
Excuse me.
Hehehe.
At least 2% of me is crickets right now. I will let you know.
Yeah, but that's not your meat. That's cricket meat.
You never said it had to be her meat.
Oh God, what are we doing? Right. When you were mortal, that would have manifested itself in all kinds of very peculiar ways, especially regarding ectoplasm. But now that you are a spirit, present within a metal casing, that ectoplasmic reaction is far greater, but often can be missed by a great deal of people because unless they are very close to you, they won't notice that anything has explicitly changed about your external state unless it's very, very powerful, like right now.
Oh no.
Because one of the first things that happen is that you literally electrocute this guy. Like, he takes a large bolt of ectoplasmic energy directly through his arms. You hear his right arm literally pop.
Oh.
And like, he stands stock still for a moment and then just leans back in a daze. You haven't killed him. You just really did, like, you did something dramatically peculiar to him. That's one. And two, while that happens, you get this very brief but very clear image in your brain for just like a fraction of a second of a large a cube of marble almost as big as your hand, and your hand is just a little bit bigger than an average human's hand. Pure marble on all sides. There is like a thin staff of marble coming off from the top, making it almost look like a very square bell. And you're seeing it in this room full of smoke, almost by itself. And you can hear something whispering behind it, but you don't know what the whisper is. And the image is gone just as quickly as you see it. And
what about my crickets?
I want you to do me a favor.
Oh no. No.
Right. So on your sheet there is a button for a fortune roll.
Roll fortune.
I would like you to click it and tell me what you see.
Number of dice.
Select 3 dice.
3 dice. Submit. Notes.
No notes.
No notes. So I just submit as blank.
Yes. 1, 3, 5. A third of your crickets are dead.
Oh.
You can sense that very clearly in that moment. That is an accidental element of your attunement. You literally hear them die. In that moment that you attune, they speak to you, crying out for help. And they are now dead.
Crossroads is so distressed right now.
Also, when you come to, the other detective has literally drawn their pistol and is stepping away from you while they have it trained on your chest.
Crossroads is still doing this. They have literally kept the same position since the cops have entered, and Crossroads, feeling the silenced cries of the crickets still percolating the air, goes, "I'm distressed." And that's it. That's what they say. It says.
And this inspector is literally shouting at you. Distress? That's what you call it? You almost killed my partner. What's wrong with you? Are you?
I'm distressed. That's what's wrong.
Criminals tend to be in distress all the time. You know what would ease your soul at this point? Coming
What?
clean. What did you do to Runa? What did you do to the seal?
I didn't do anything. You're confusing me. You have a gun. I'm distressed.
You're going to come to the station with me right now, or you're going to die. That's it.
Oh.
And she
Okay.
gestures to the staircase for you to walk. She gestures with her drawn pistol for you to walk towards the staircase.
Oh man.
Crossroads is super perplexed by you're going to go to the station or you're going to die because of certain facts about its existence.
Mm-hmm.
And so moves automatically to comply, but then it is kind of halfway out the door when it goes, oh, but, and then it just stops moving.
The inspector fires a shot behind your head, and it goes straight through the very hollow wall to your side.
Says Crossroads.
Walk. I'm not going to ask again.
Crossroads walks awkwardly.
By the time that Crossroads gets to the staircase, Skelly, you can obviously. I mean, you've heard the whole thing, including the gunshot and a man being electrocuted to death.
Yeah, well, not to death, but
well, not to death, but still,
pain.
to as close to death as possible, to so much pain that it might as well be death.
Yeah,
He's still purely unconscious.
Skelly is now doing the calculus of, I'm not getting paid for this. Messing with bluecoats, even though I don't like them, is potentially hazardous to my own health. Is there any way that I can get my friend out of this situation without risking myself excessively? I'm trying to think, because I feel like Skelly would know that if they get dragged to the station, chances are they're not coming out. Like once the cops have said you're our sucker, then that's it. That's the end of the show. So trying to think, like, does she feel she has enough of a connection, and or I don't know if obligation is the right word, but a sense of responsibility for this situation. Yes, Crossroads has fed Skelly a lot. And
Yes.
This feels like something that merits some sort of loyalty.
Yeah.
Crossroads has also given food off of its own plate to Skelly, thereby presumably giving itself hunger to feed Skelly's vices. So,
I'm thinking, like, because this is a narrow hallway. Skelly could conceivably do some kind of suppressing fire from around the corner such that it isn't super clear where the fire is coming from. And Skelly is a sharpshooter, so suppressing fire is the skill they have. She has. But she also definitely wouldn't want to hit her friend. So
oh my god, am I bulletproof?
You have armor. That's different from being bulletproof.
Okay.
It's like, just because you are not made of meat doesn't mean that you cannot be shot or penetrated. It just means that you won't.
We just leave a hole, like.
Yeah. And people will see through you and go, humans don't make holes on a regular basis, and that will be a matter of concern.
It would be like bedknobs and broomsticks at the end. All this just the marching armor. It's like, you just shot through that armor. There's nothing inside the armor. This is a problem. I mean, that would actually be interesting if Skelly took the shots and Oops did in fact shoot through her friend and discovered that her friend seems to not be bothered by it. But the crickets are out now, and that's a problem too. Oops. Okay,
Yes.
so I feel like some kind of suppressing fire is probably not unreasonable at this point. But also Skelly wouldn't be able to coordinate to get Crossroads out of there. Like Crossroads might just stand there and be like, "Oh no, I'm now being shot from the front." So
Oh, so in terms of the layout, Skelly is behind me and I'm between Skelly and the officer.
is that correct, or did I go around to the back, or
I don't know.
Did you go
around the back? Because
which way are they coming out? Because then I could go around to the back and then just shoot them from behind.
they're exiting through the front. They're coming down the front staircase.
Okay. I feel like I would have checked. This may constitute a flashback, but I feel like I would have been savvy enough to check that the back door was locked or unlocked as soon as I set up my perimeter to.
We can resolve that in a flashback right now if you like.
Yes. So I would assume that when I got to the building, due to my own suspicious nature, I would have probably checked the entrances. I would have scoped out, how many are there, how many windows are there, how many apartments are in this building, that kind of stuff. And I would have checked the front door, the back door to see if they were locked. And so I would already know, is the back door locked, to know that if I tried to go around to the back door, I would have no success unless I tried to bust it open, which would take time and potentially be another problem. And also, I guess, what kind of door is it? Does it have a window in it that I could shoot through? I mean,
in fact, what makes this actually particularly interesting is that because you've visited Crossroads on a regular basis,
I would know probably, yeah.
Yeah, so you would have had a regular opportunity to know all of these things a long time ago. So this flashback costs zero stress.
Yeah. Okay.
I will say that means that you were aware of the fact that the back door was locked, but that you had ample opportunity whenever you wanted to unlock it if you wanted, if that is a thing that you want to do. But that would mean that you are approaching from the back where Crossroads cannot see you, and where your shot if you wanted to get a shot at the inspector before they reach the staircase, you will probably have a hard time, and that position will probably be desperate.
Yeah, no, the goal would be for me to put myself in a position where I could easily potentially shoot them in the back if that's possible. If not, then just that I would have a clear shot that would probably not hit my friend. Although as a sharpshooter, I probably would be experienced with shooting around them anyway. But it would just be to make sure that I have the best position possible to take a shot if I would need to.
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, what would you prefer to do?
No, I would want to position myself to have the best chance of very quickly taking these people down.
Okay. I'm going to say for your purposes, it would still be beneficial for you to just stay where you were.
Mm-hmm.
And wait for them to sufficiently actually leave the apartment and make a decision after that. With that being said, Crossroads, how do you feel about the situation that you're in? What would you like to do at this point?
I'm in distress, so I'm nervously edging outside of the building where the blue coat is gesturing me to go. And as I'm going out, do I detect Skelly's heartbeat with my sensors?
You detect a heartbeat in Skelly's direction.
Okay.
You would have to determine on your own whether you actually notice that that's Skelly. Is that a thing that you want to do? Do you want to make sure that the heartbeat that you're hearing is a friend or foe?
Yes, not specifically Skelly, but if this is another enemy to me, like another blue coat, is what I'm asking, trying to determine.
That sounds, well, you would have to be turning to the person to discover who they are, and that sounds like that would be a survey roll.
Okay, a survey roll. Angling my very human chest.
Because
Position?
chests do the thing.
Yep.
Position is risky.
Okay. Effect?
Effect is standard
Okay.
and no bonus dice.
No bonus dice.
Wow.
That was terrible.
Yes, that's indeed terrible. You do not get a clear look at who is there. You just know that there is a heartbeat in that direction.
Okay, Crossroads decides to throw all caution to the wind, I believe is the saying, and starts edging in that direction towards heartbeat. Maybe it will help.
Okay. Skelly, you obviously get a very clear look that is Crossroads because you know what Crossroads looks like, and you are in a good position by the staircase to be able to tell. You can tell that it's acting very strangely, and you have no idea why. You still cannot see the other detective,
Right.
who has not left the room yet and is trying to maintain a
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely don't want to just like shoot a couple of cops on the street because that would probably be a problem for later. I mean, it'd be a problem for future Skelly, but at the same time, Skelly is cognizant that future Skelly is also present Skelly, just slightly time displaced. Is there any like awareness or knowledge of typical police procedure in terms of like, I don't think Skelly has a ton of money to bribe them, but anything about like, you know, you don't have a warrant or, you know, any of that sort of thing? Or does she just expect that kind of cops tend to just do whatever the hell they want and figure it out later?
This sounds like a suitable opportunity to gather information. I'm gonna say that you should. How do I? I know how we solve this. I'm going to ask you to give me a fortune roll to determine how much of this you would already know.
Okay.
So you will roll 2 fortune dice.
Got it.
Partial success. Well, you obviously know that all cops are bastards. How that affects this individual question is, you know that especially dealing with inspectors, which you have intuited already, the still awake blue coat is, are typically less susceptible to bribes because they are far more intensely focused on the idea of actually getting actual criminals off the streets.
Right.
They can't be bought, and getting in a fight with them will just make them even more dogged in their pursuit of this person.
So actually, solving this with violence, as much as it is my inclination to do so, would probably be a really terrible idea.
Solving this with any interaction would be a terrible idea, but if you solve this with violence, you'll have to kill this person to actually get to the bottom of this problem, and for obvious reasons, that would be less than ideal. You also know that because of the very weird way in which investigations are run by inspectors in Duskwall, you know that because this is the scene of a crime, anybody who still lives there can be interrogated regularly without any necessity for a warrant because the body was present. And essentially that, what do they call that? Essentially, that probable cause lasts for the entire duration of their investigation. So long as you have been close to the body at the point when it was found, they can interrogate you and investigate and search any of your personal effects for as long as you are still a person of interest. It does mean, however, that they need to officially state that you are not a person of interest, and when they do, that is no longer relevant. But that is a thing that you know only because of this instance.
Oh, man. I want to do violence, but it seems so stupid. It's like
Crossroads might be getting to the point of violence, but that's only because it's really panicking right now, and
yeah,
a
no.
lot of its crickets are dead.
Technically, violence has already been done. She already electrocuted someone. That was an oopsie. And yet, here we are.
Meanwhile, inside, the inspector is still shouting at Crossroads to move.
Oh, no.
Crossroads is repeating over and over again that it's distressed.
I'm not going to go into all of the things that this inspector is saying at this moment, but like they're going on this semi-whisper of a tirade about how much they don't trust people who tinker with ghost magic, and that's the reason why they're absolutely sure that you killed Runa.
If Crossroads had a face, Crossroads would be making a very distressed face.
I imagine. The inspector fires another warning shot behind your head.
So am I facing the inspector right now? Or
I'm going to assume that you're not facing the inspector. You're facing outward and they're facing your back.
okay, so what can Skelly see of me currently?
Skelly can see what is essentially a side profile of you.
Okay, can I roll to finesse the box of semi-charred crickets out of my body?
What do you want to do with the crickets? What do you want to do with the crickets?
I'm going to throw the crickets at the officer who's making me distressed.
Jesus. You know what? Let's throw crickets at the police. I'm gonna say
if crickets get thrown, I might actually then step in and take the opportunity while they're distracted to just shoot them both. That actually that might put, I don't know.
Right. So what I will say is that Jeoi will roll to see that, just so we can learn the result of that, and then the result of that will determine what I tell you about your roll later. So let's deal with that roll first.
Okay.
So you're going to finesse the box of crickets in
my body.
Cavity
yes.
in your body.
Yes.
And that position is going to be desperate.
Okay. Effect.
And that effect is going to be standard.
Okay.
Would you like to push yourself or take a devil's bargain?
So for the record, what Crossroads wants to do is to take the box of crickets and then fling it at the officer and hopefully have crickets explode everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And this is with the deliberate intention of distracting them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
To then run somewhere. It does not know where it's going to run, but it wants to run.
So I will let you know beforehand some of the complications that will arise.
Okay.
They may respond to distraction by immediately firing directly at you.
Okay.
And if they are not sufficiently distracted, they will see that a human now has a hole in their chest that was revealed by an iron door and that crickets are flying out of that hole. Both of those things would not be ideal.
Okay.
Also, it's perfectly possible that they may not be distracted at all depending on the result.
Okay. I will push myself to very effectively throw crickets.
Right. So pushing yourself, if I recall correctly. Mike?
Yeah, so to push yourself, you mark 2 boxes of stress on your character sheet. And when you push, I believe you can you can take +1d, so you're more likely to succeed, or you can improve your effect. So a standard effect could go to a great, or you could give you could take +1d.
Right.
Or you can accept a devil's bargain, which is I'm going to get a +1d, but this bad thing happens no matter what else happens with the die result.
I think Crossroads is going to push so they'll take 2 drain because that's what it is on its sheet. And so I get +1d from that.
Yes.
Okay. So finesse, risky, standard, and then bonus dice 1.
Yes.
Okay. I guess I'm throwing some crickets out of my body.
Partial success. Okay. What does a partial success mean in this instance?
So this slightly singed gigantic egg carton, I guess, of 66% alive crickets.
So I'm going to assume then that part of what happens at this moment is okay, so you throw the crickets. A stack of live crickets rushes towards this person's face. They very actively fire a shot, like some manner of feet away from your head at the roof of your apartment, which gives you a very ample opportunity at this moment to decide if you're going to run or not.
Crossroads is already running.
Okay. Skelly, you notice what is obviously Crossroads, obviously running. You also notice what looks like their coat being remarkably open and revealing nothing. But while that's happening, your friend is running all the way away from you and is already several feet off into the distance.
Okay.
I'm buttoning up as I go because humans are not naked when they run.
Trying to decide whether I would expect I'd be able to find my friend later, and should stay behind and try to distract the police. Is there a nearby position from which I could hide and provide cover fire? Just like retreat quickly to a building and then start shooting. Not necessarily with the intent to kill, but with the intent to delay.
I'll say for these purposes that you are aware that the crickets have done their job. And they're still like visibly wrestling with live crickets.
Okay, so then for now I will watch. And at the point at which it seems that they are going, well, I'm going to maybe, like I said, maybe retreat to somewhere nearby that I'd be able to do a rapid, the sharpshooter ability to rapid fire suppress, ideally without being seen. But I'm going to not start doing that until the crickets seem to have lost their efficacy.
Okay, I'm going to say then that there comes a point, maybe like a minute and a half.
Oh, then if it takes that long for them to get their acts together, I don't even feel like I need to do cover fire. Then I'm just Oh yeah, no, then nothing.
Yeah.
Then I'm laughing about crickets because what the hell was that, crickets?
Right. So a minute and a half after that happens, you can visibly see that Crossroads has cleared some distance away from here and has ducked into another street and is probably still taking off into another direction. Mm-hmm. You hear inside the officer like shout very loudly. She fires one shot into something inside the building.
The other cop.
She grabs the other cop by the shoulder and starts walking out into the down the staircase and into the street. They head off in some other random direction, presumably to get back to their police station. And while that's happening, I will say two very final things, which is if Crossroads is still running.
Yes.
While you are running, you're going to be a part of you just accidentally stumbles back onto the image of that stone, mm-hmm. that cube of marble, for no reason whatsoever. And then the image disappears and you're still running into the street. And another thing is the path that you are running at this point goes right in front of Ash's store. And Ash, you can see this blur of the black iron just rush down the street. And it strikes you as vaguely familiar, but you can't remember where you saw it, and it just disappears into the night. And that's literally where we're going to end this.
Were there still like a couple crickets leaking out as Crossroads runs past?
Oh yeah, through the window there's just like one idle cricket with the dead limping carcass of another cricket like accidentally like cradled in its foot, just stumble into your window and fall into one of the empty cups of whiskey. And that's literally the final frame.
Saxophone trill. Da, 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 da.
Freeze frame. Da, 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 da.
I thought I was going to be so subtle and that nothing bad would happen to me.
Mm-hmm. And then you had to throw insects at the cop.
Yeah. I mean, the cop was being mean.
Electrocuting another cop, which...
Yes, you have killed one cop and you threw insects at another cop. Brilliant. Let's keep up that momentum, please. Please. Thank you so very much for indulging this very silly thing. I'm really excited to see where we go from here, obviously. There is this mystery of this object, the foul play of Crossroads' friend's death, for which it is now very squarely accused and seems to be running out of a combination of genuine self-awareness that they did commit the crime, and otherwise just general confusion all around, like not knowing how to speak like a human made of meat. So yeah,
Crossroads would like to defend itself and say that it does know how to speak like a human made out of meat. You flap meat.
Cricket meat is not human meat. Cricket meat is not human meat, and we'll stand by that. Yeah, so
then other meat then.
Yes, the other meat.
You push air through your meat while you're flapping it.
Yes.
That's how it works.
I squirt air through my meat.
Yes.
Jesus. This is so wow. I am so enamored of this game and I can't wait to experience more of it when we're ready. This is a lot. Thank you so very much for joining me. Thank you so very much for indulging me when I asked you also nicely to join this game. Thank you to the spectators in the chat who have been really delighted by all of this cricket shenanigans. And obviously, thanks a lot to Mike and Greg of Speculate for allowing us to do this through your platform, and especially to Greg for allowing us to be on your Twitch channel to do the thing. I'm really glad that we got to have this silly amount of fun here, and I'm looking forward to doing it again next week.
Cool. So I want to suggest that everybody give a quick reminder to folks listening and watching who we all are and where people can find us on the internet before the next session. And then I'm going to throw back to Greg to take us out for the evening. So I'm Michael R. Underwood. I'm one of the co-hosts on Speculate. You can find me on Twitter at Mike R. Underwood or at my website, michaelrunderwood.com. Iori, where can we find you on the internet?
I am also on Twitter at Iori Kusano. My name is spelled Iori. Thanks a lot, sans serif fonts.
Jeoi.
So you can find me at This Is My Design at Twitter. Design is DASEIN. So you can find me being an awkward person made of meat.
Valerie.
I am difficult to find on Twitter because I am Valerie Valdes, just like it's spelled on the screen. So yeah, check me out. I have opinions about video games, and my children say weird crap a lot.
Mm-hmm. And our wonderful, sometimes confused GM Brandon.
Sometimes. Oh, hi
I'm
everyone.
so sorry.
Oh no, please confuse me more often. I look forward to it. So hi everyone, I'm Brandon O'Brien. You can find me on almost every social media platform at The Rising Tides. That's TITHES. I have a website, brandonobrien.space. And this is an idle opportunity for me to also plug Fire, a magazine of Black speculative fiction, which you can find on Twitter at FireLitMag. I am their poetry editor. I will always shout them out whenever I get the opportunity. So it would be really rad if you wanted to subscribe to that and read some really cool Black SFF.
All right, and now we're going to throw back to Greg, who hopefully is standing by and will do good Twitch magic.
Greg is standing by. That was very funny, and I have to say, before we set this up, they were talking about the tone of all of this, and Brendan's like, so I'm thinking of something which is a little darker in tone, and perhaps, not that, and then we just get crickets for 2.5 hours. I was just like, this is an interesting version of Duskwall tone. I loved it. It was very, very funny to watch, and I think chat was enjoying a great deal. One person actually said, I think it was Rock God, one of my mods, said, can we please have Crossroads star in every RPG on this channel ever? Like, just please, can we just have Crossroads come back and do stuff all the time?
I would love that.
It was great, but all the players did exceptionally well, and thank you so much to you for being on my Twitch channel and for being, of course, on Speculate, and for those listening in the audio sphere who are kind of like, when do we get more of this? All of you will see more of this. This is a mini campaign, so we will do this a couple more times on the Twitch channel and many more times audio-wise, because it's going to be broken down into shorter bits of this, so you get much more, I don't know, crickets for your listening pleasure or something, and you'll be able to get that. So I want to thank all of the players who made this great, and Brandon for a great job in presenting this awesome adventure. Thank you, chat. Can we get some love for them, please, as they are on their way out the door? And thanks, everyone. Good stuff tonight.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. So that is going to do it for them, and it's also going to do it for us for this evening. I was not expecting we were going to get quite as much focus on a Ghost in the Shell cricket situation, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. Yeah, wow to the crickets, exactly right. So it was great. Good work out of chat as well for everyone kind of engaging in the way that they did. I appreciate that very much. And thank you as well to all of the Speculate listeners. And I will just give our little audio tag. Thank you to the Speculate folks. Remember, you can find more about us on speculatesf.com, and you can get more stuff like this as we continue. I also want to mention that we have a Star Wars Scum and Villainy show, which is going to be coming up soon. That will be a second joint event on Speculate and Twitch, and there will be sort of alternating versions of this happening. I will actually be playing in that one, and Mike will be GMing, and we will do more talk about that. That is going to be starting for the first time in the first week of May, so that's going to be happening there. But otherwise, you can find more about us. I think it's just !Speculate, I believe, Rock God. You'll be able to find that as well. So to the audio listeners, thank you all so much. As always, please spread the word, let people know. Support the Patreon if you can, because we'd love to be able to do stuff like this more often. And thank you all for being part of the awesome show. That is going to do it for us for the audio side. And now that is going to do it as well for us on the video side too. Thank you so much to everybody. There we go. That's it. Thanks, Rock God. Thank you so much to everybody. This was a great pleasure. And much love to all. Great work from the players and the GM, and great work as well to my co-host and partner in crime, cricket crime in this case, Mike Underwood, Turbo Tango. We will see all of you lovely folks here tomorrow evening. Monday night will be the return of Emberwind at 7 p.m. Eastern. That will be, of course, John Helfers and crew, and it's apparently, since everyone keeps telling me this, it's going to be a doozy, so you're not going to want to miss this. There's a council meeting coming up, I hear tell. So that's going to be happening Monday. Then on Tuesday on this channel, we have got the Patreon Field Chat Chosen Game of the Month, Planescape Torment, and then we will have the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt over on GOG. And then Wednesday evening, we have got D&D with Community, the Community D&D, and that is going to be Dragon of Icespire Peak, and that is going to be wrapping up April. After that, it's going to be heading into May. Friday, May 1st, we will be back with some Detroit Become Human. So that's what we've got going on. Very exciting time for the channel. Thank you all for being a part of this. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll spread the word. Don't forget, !ArvTube for the YouTube, !ArvCord for the Discord, !ArvTweets for the Twitter. All of that on the website, arvaneleron.com. You can support my Patreon right there, !ArvTreon, !ArvTreon for that, !ArvShop for the merchandise area, and last but certainly not least, the sub button right above that video window. Also, I mentioned the publishing stuff, but I'll just do it really quickly. !Icarus for my graphic novels coming out from Athos Arts. That'll be happening in late May, early June. You can pre-order it right now. !Library for more details of tales and tomes from the Forbidden Library. You can get the PDF from DriveThruRPG, and the print version is coming as soon as the printer in Lithuania comes out of lockdown because of coronavirus, which will hopefully be sooner rather than later. And last but certainly not least, I think, is !Greyshade KS, my Greyshade Kickstarter, which will also have more details just as soon as we come out of lockdown. So we're hoping soon we'll be able to start moving on that again. But that is going to do it for me. I don't think we're going to do a raid today because it's Sunday night, and I don't have anyone immediate that I want to do it. So we're not going to do a raid today. We will have plenty of time to do raids again tomorrow. But thanks again to all the folks who came for this little fun experience of a few hours with Speculate. Thank you as well to everyone who came for any one of the authors. Please check out all of the authors' work and support them as well. That's super awesome and important. And thank you to those of you who resubbed tonight and hosted the channel and followed the channel and all that good stuff. I appreciate it very much. Otherwise, I will see you folks tomorrow night, Monday night at 7 p.m. for Emberwind. Until then, everyone, be good to each other. Have a lovely evening, and don't forget the crickets. I'll see y'all soon.